Hello and welcome to A Minute of Inspiration. We're talking about creativity. Now, creativity, as we understand it, is like a creation in the outer world. A creation could be things, painting, advertisement, a product, a life, whatever you may call it. And that creation is dependent on the way we essentially think. Now, the way we think is, of course, dependent on what is the input that this mind has received. And now, if you notice, what is the input that the mind receives as we go along in life? We learn things. We learn things through knowledge, through books, through teachers. We learn things through a belief system that is passed on to us by the elders, by society, by the priest, by the church, by the temple, by the mosque, by whatever you may call it. We pick up certain value systems that are taught to us, and we learn through our experiences. And essentially, even within our experiences, we're constantly judging and analyzing whether the experience was good or bad. And the reason we are able to analyze is because certain knowledge of good and bad already exists. So this entire structure of mind, which receives all of the knowledge, beliefs, values, experiences, and all subsets of it as input, goes around and trying to create something. Now, we identify a creation as being creative, depending on whether the creation is slightly more different or unique or novel in its idea, and we use some of those adjectives to define creativity. However, I don't view that as any creative process whatsoever, because if you look closely or if you look within, the whole structure of the mind is based on certain thoughts, knowledge, experiences, values, beliefs, all of which are fed to us by an external environment. It's not our own creation in the first place. Knowledge comes from outside, beliefs come from outside, values or tradition comes from outside, everything comes from outside and is fed into our mind. And as we are growing up, our minds are conditioned to believe that that is an absolute truth and that's the way that life should be. And based on that absolute truth of our reality, of our mind, which is rooted in the past, it's all past knowledge and it's rooted through other people, it's not even my own. It's in the past, it's not even my own, and that's the input, or that's the structure of the mind now that I use to create something new. I use old, I use certain permutations and combinations, and I use it to create something new. How is that even possible? Yes, we may look at a beautiful painting, a beautiful sculpture, a sculpture, a photograph, a printout, something that looks novel and unique. But that's not creative. That just means that I've got more knowledge about a certain skill of a certain subject. How can a knowledge or belief system which is so old, it's rooted in the past, it's dead, it's gone, it may or may not even be the truth, and that I haven't analyzed, but I'm confusing in my head thinking that a certain combination of an old can create something new. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened for centuries. At least in the psychological sphere, it's never going to happen, because for over 5,000 years of human existence as we know it, we're still grappling with fundamentals of security, fear, stress, anxiety at the root of it, and no amount of knowledge, belief, organized or unorganized, has been able to help us get out of it. That is not creation. Creation is something new. To create is to experience something totally new. And how can a mind which is so burdened with all of the knowledge, beliefs and values which are all so much in the past, and the mind is constantly full of it, and how can this mind, leave alone creating something new, how can this mind even experience something new? Creation can only be possible, or creativity is only possible in a mind that is free. A mind that is free is only possible that a mind that is not rooted in this past world of knowledge. And I'm not saying that knowledge is not necessary. It is. It helps us survive. But creation is not possible through the old. When the mind will be free, which essentially means that the center of this creation cannot be this person called self. All of our knowledge, belief, values, existence, theories, everything enhance our sense of self-relevance, right? I feel better, I feel elevated, I feel I'm superior, and I create from this center called I. And when I create from this center called I, no matter where you are, you could be in Russia, you could be in China, you could be in India, you could be in the United States of America, you could be in Korea, Australia, New Zealand, any part of the world, as long as the center of the creation is I, human beings are conditioned to create destruction. And that's what is happening around the world. And we then invent concepts which we feel are very creative and liberating. But let me give you an example. There will be violence, and we will create a concept called non-violence, and we think we've achieved the end result. But it doesn't happen, because the non-violence is not the actual reality. The violence was the reality. The ending of violence was what we needed, but we couldn't achieve it because I create from this center called I, get attached to this concept which is born out of knowledge, and there was no new creation in the world. The creation will happen when there is freedom to create, and the free mind is one that is free from the old, so that it can see the fresh, so that it can see reality, so that it can see what actually is. And when I see what actually is, this whole sense of self might just be overtaken by a sense of concern and love, and that freedom is what will actually create something new. I get asked, whenever I talk about this, people ask me the question, so what will this mind create? There is absolutely no way for you and I to know what a free mind will create. Only when I have a free mind will I know what will it create. And whatever will it create, whatever it will create, as long as it's not from the center of I, it will truly be fresh, and it cannot be destructive because I am not present in that process anymore, so there is nothing to protect. So in a nutshell, how to be more creative? Creativity is not a trick or cunning combination or permutation of ideas from the past to present something new. That's just called cunningness. Creativity is at its core, at its purest form, is freedom. And freedom can only exist in a mind that is fresh. It cannot exist in a mind that is burdened with tradition and knowledge and beliefs, none of which are your own. To create something means to be free. To be free means to be fresh. To be fresh means to be responsible for life. And that mind, which is devoid of this center, and the center is actually the perception of whole of reality, and only that mind can actually create something. See you again.